Jake Morrison had spent 12 years moving cargo through space. He loaded boxes. He checked lists. He made sure things went from one place to another without getting lost or broken. It was simple work, and he liked it that way. He had never wanted to be a hero or do anything special. He just wanted to do his job and go home. The ship he worked on was called the Starbound Drift. It was an old freighter that carried supplies between Earth's colonies. The paint was scratched, the engines made strange noises, and the food in the mess hall was never very good. But the crew was decent, the pay was fair, and Jake had learned to call it home. On the day everything changed, Jake was eating breakfast when the alarm started ringing. Captain Laura Bennett's voice came through the speakers. She said they had picked up a distress signal from a nearby ship. They were going to help. Jake did not think much of it. Distress calls happened sometimes. Usually it was a broken engine or a small accident. The crew would help, share some supplies, and move on. He finished his breakfast and went to the cargo bay to prepare whatever might be needed. But when he saw the ship on the view screen, he stopped walking. It was not a small trader or a colony transport. It was a Volante royal vessel. The Volante were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. They were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their eyes were large and dark, and they moved with a grace that made humans look clumsy. Most importantly, they were powerful. Their empire stretched across 1,000 worlds, and they did not think much of younger species like humans. Jake had never seen a Volante in person. Most humans had not. The two species had a trade agreement but kept their distance from each other. Now a Volante ship was floating dead in space, and the Starbound Drift was the only vessel close enough to help. Captain Bennett assembled a team to go aboard. Jake was included because they might need to move medical supplies. He put on his suit and followed the others through the airlock. The inside of the Volante ship was like nothing Jake had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of crystal that glowed with soft light. The floors were smooth and warm. Everything was beautiful and strange, but it was also damaged. Scorch marks covered the walls. Broken pieces of equipment lay everywhere. The ship had been attacked. Volante crew members rushed past them, speaking in their own language. They barely looked at the humans. Jake followed his team deeper into the ship until they reached a large room that seemed to be a medical chamber. What he saw there made him stop breathing for a moment. In the center of the room, a young Volante female lay on a raised platform. Her skin, which should have shimmered with color, was pale and gray. Black lines spread across her arms and neck like cracks in ice. Machines surrounded her, making sounds that Jake did not understand. Several Volante physicians worked frantically around her, but their faces showed despair. One of the Volante guards spoke to Captain Bennett. Jake could not understand the words, but the ship's translator turned them into English. The young female was Princess Alendra, daughter of the Volante Emperor. Raiders had attacked their ship. The princess had been hit with a weapon coated in rare poison. The poison was spreading through her body, and nothing could stop it. She would be dead before the day was over. Jake felt a strange sadness looking at her. She seemed so young, even though he knew Volante lived for hundreds of years. Her face was peaceful, as if she had already accepted what was coming. It did not seem fair. Captain Bennett ordered Jake to help bring medical supplies from the Starbound Drift. Maybe human medicine could help where Volante medicine had failed. It was a small hope, but it was something. Jake made several trips back and forth, carrying cases of medicine and equipment. The Volante physicians took everything and tried it all. Nothing worked. The black lines continued to spread across the princess's body. On his last trip, Jake was carrying a heavy case through the crowded medical chamber. There were too many people, too much equipment, and not enough space. He did not see the piece of broken metal on the floor. His foot caught on it. He stumbled forward, losing his grip on the case. His arms went out to catch himself, and his bare hand landed on the princess's arm. Her skin was cold. That was the first thing he noticed. Cold like touching snow. Then the light came. It started at the point where his skin touched hers. A soft golden glow, gentle at first, then brighter. Jake tried to pull away, but he could not move. Something was flowing out of him, something he could not name or understand. It did not hurt. It felt like breathing out after holding his breath for too long. The room went silent. Every Volante stopped what they were doing and stared. The black lines on the princess's skin began to fade. They pulled back like shadows running from sunrise. Color returned to her face. Her breathing, which had been shallow and weak, grew stronger. Jake finally managed to pull his hand away. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding. He looked at his hand, expecting to see something different, but it looked the same as always. Just a normal human hand. The princess opened her eyes. They were deep purple, like the sky at dusk. She looked around the room, confused. Then she looked at Jake. Their eyes met, and something passed between them that neither of them could explain. One of the Volante physicians rushed forward to examine her. His hands were shaking. He ran his instruments over her body again and again, as if he could not believe what they were telling him. Finally, he turned to the others and spoke in a voice filled with wonder. The poison was gone. Completely gone. The princess was healing. Every Volante in the room turned to look at Jake. He saw many emotions in their faces. Shock, fear, confusion, and something else. Something that made him uncomfortable. They were looking at him like he was not human anymore. Like he was something else entirely. Captain Bennett stepped forward and put her hand on Jake's shoulder. Her grip was firm and protective. What just happened? She asked quietly. Jake shook his head. He had no answer. He was a cargo worker. He moved boxes. He had never healed anyone in his life. But the Volante were not looking for answers. They were looking at him like he had just changed everything. And deep in his gut, Jake had a feeling that his simple life of loading cargo and checking lists was over forever. The news spread faster than Jake could have imagined. Within an hour, every Volante on the damaged ship knew what had happened. Within a day, the story had reached the Volante homeworld across the stars. A human had touched the dying princess, and she had healed. No one knew how. No one knew why. But everyone was talking about it. Jake was taken to a private room on the Volante ship. It was comfortable, with soft lighting and a bed that adjusted to his body. But it was also locked. He was not a prisoner, they told him. He was being protected. From what, they did not say. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at his hands. They looked normal. Same calluses from years of work. Same small scar on his left thumb from a childhood accident. Nothing special. Nothing different. But those hands had done something impossible. Captain Bennett came to see him a few hours later. She had been arguing with the Volante commanders about Jake's situation. Her face was tired, but her eyes were sharp. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Jake shrugged. "I don't understand what happened. I just touched her. That's all I did. I know." Bennett sat down across from him. "But they don't see it that way. To them, you did something their best doctors couldn't do. You brought their princess back from the edge of death." "It wasn't me," Jake said. "It couldn't have been me. I'm nobody." Bennett looked at him for a long moment. Maybe being nobody is exactly what makes you special. Jake did not understand what she meant. He was not sure he wanted to. The next day, the Volante High Physician came to see him. His name was Varentis, and he was very old. His skin had faded to a soft silver color, and he moved slowly, as if each step took great effort. but his eyes were bright and curious. He brought machines with him, scanners and sensors and devices that Jake could not name. He asked Jake to sit still while he studied him. "You are afraid," Varentis said. His voice was gentle. "Wouldn't you be?" Jake replied. The old physician made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, I suppose I would be." He continued his scans, moving his instruments over Jake's body. "Do you know much about your own species, human?" Jake frowned. "I'm human. I know how to be human. But do you know why you are the way you are?" Varentis adjusted one of his devices. "Your people evolved on a harsh world. Your sun bombards your planet with radiation. Your environment is filled with diseases and dangers. Most species would have died out long ago, but humans did not. You adapted. You survived. That's just evolution," Jake said. "Every species does that." Varentis shook his head. "Not like you. Your bodies are remarkable machines of repair and recovery. You heal from wounds that would kill others. You fight off diseases that would destroy entire populations. You carry within you a biological toolkit that no other species in the galaxy possesses in the same way." Jake thought about this. He had never considered being human as something special. It was just what he was. "What does that have to do with what happened to the princess?" he asked. Varentis stopped his scans and looked at Jake directly. "I believe that when you touched her, something in your biology reached out to hers. Your cells, your enzymes, your body's natural healing abilities somehow transferred to her. They fought the poison in ways our medicine could not." "That's impossible," Jake said. "Yesterday, I would have agreed with you." Varentis began packing his equipment. "Today, I am not so sure. The universe is vast, and there is much we do not understand. Perhaps humans carry a gift that even they do not know about." After Varentis left, Jake lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. A gift. The word stuck in his mind. He had never asked for any gift. He had just been doing his job, carrying boxes, trying not to trip. And now everything was different. The next morning, Princess Alindra asked to meet him. Jake was nervous as the guards led him through the ship's corridors. He had seen her lying on that platform, close to death. He had felt her cold skin under his hand. Now she wanted to talk to him, and he had no idea what to say. She was waiting in a room filled with plants that glowed with soft blue light. She stood when he entered, and Jake was struck by how different she looked. Her skin shimmered with color now, shifting between purple and green and gold. Her eyes were bright and alert. She looked healthy. She looked alive. "You are the one who saved me," she said. Her voice was musical, like water flowing over stones. Jake did not know how to respond. "I don't really understand what I did. Neither do one." She gestured for him to sit. "But I know that I should have died. I felt the poison spreading through my body. I felt myself fading away. And then there was warmth, light, and I came back." She sat down across from him, studying his face with those large purple eyes. Jake felt uncomfortable under her gaze. He was used to being ignored, not examined. "You are not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "I am not sure. Something more. Something less." She tilted her head slightly. "Humans have always been a mystery to my people. You live such short lives, but you burn so brightly. You are young as a species, yet you have spread across the stars. We have watched you and wondered what you might become." Jake shifted in his seat. "I'm just a cargo worker. I'm not special." "The physicians say that all humans might carry this gift," Alindra said. "If they are right, then every human is special. And no one, including your own people, ever knew it." Jake thought about Earth, about the colonies, about all the humans living their ordinary lives. Could they all do what he had done? Could they heal with a touch? What happens now? he asked. Alindra's expression became serious. My father, the Emperor, will want to meet you. Word has reached him about what you did. He will have questions. He will have offers. She paused. He will have demands. And if I don't want to meet him? The princes looked at him with something that might have been respect. Then you are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. My people are powerful, but we are also afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of anything that shifts the balance of power. You have done something that no one has ever done before. That makes you dangerous. Jake stood as well. I didn't ask for any of this. No, Alindra agreed, turning to face him. But it is yours now, whether you want it or not. The only question is what you will do with it. She reached out and touched his hand briefly. Her skin was warm now, alive with the healing he had somehow given her. Thank you, she said softly. Whatever happens next, I wanted you to know that. Thank you for my life. Jake looked at her hand on his, at the shimmering colors dancing across her skin. He still did not understand what he had done or why. But looking at her standing there, alive and whole, he knew that whatever came next, this moment had been worth it. He just hoped he would survive what came after. The message from the Volanthi Emperor arrived 3 days later. It was not a request. It was a command. The human who had healed Princess Alindra would present himself before the imperial court. The starward drift would escort him to the Dominion homeworld. Captain Bennett did not like it. She stood in her small office aboard the freighter, reading the message for the 5th time. Her face was tight with worry. We can refuse, she said. We can take Jake back to human space and let the diplomats sort this out. Jake shook his head. If I run, they'll think humans have something to hide. They'll think I did something wrong. It could cause problems between our peoples. Lieutenant Chris Donovan stood by the door with his arms crossed. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and hard eyes. He had been a Marine before joining the freighter crew, and he still carried himself like a soldier. Or we go there and they decide to keep you forever. You thought about that? Jake had thought about it. He had thought about little else since the princess had warned him. But he had also thought about what might happen if humans and Volanthi could work together. If his gift was real, if it could help others, then hiding from it seemed wrong. I have to go, he said. But I need you with me. All of you. Bennett studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. We stay together. Whatever happens, we face it as a crew. The journey to the Volanthi homeworld took 6 days. Jake spent most of that time with Dr. Megan Park, the ship's physician. She was a small woman with gray hair and quick hands. She had been running tests on Jake since the healing, trying to understand what had happened. Your cellular regeneration is off the charts, she told him one evening in the medical bay. Your immune system is incredibly active, and there are compounds in your blood that I've never seen before in any human sample. What does that mean? Jake asked. I'm not sure yet. Megan frowned at her screens. But I think Varentis might be right. There's something in human biology that we've never fully understood. Something that lets us heal in ways other species can't. And it can transfer to ours? Maybe. I need more data. She looked at him with concern. Jake, if this is real, if humans can heal other species with a touch, do you understand what that means? Every empire in the galaxy will want us. Some will want to use us. Others will want to make sure no one else can. Jake understood. He just did not know what to do about it. The Volanthi homeworld was called Volantis Prime, when the starward drift dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Jake went to the observation deck to watch their approach. The planet was beautiful. It was larger than Earth, with swirling clouds of purple and gold. Great cities covered its surface, their towers reaching toward the sky like fingers of light. Ships moved around it in endless streams, a dance of commerce and power that had been going on for thousands of years. Jake felt very small looking at it. His entire species had been traveling in space for only a few centuries. The Volanthi had built all of this while humans were still learning to use fire. A shuttle came to collect them. Jake, Captain Bennett, Lieutenant Donovan, and Dr. Park were taken down to the surface and driven through streets that seemed to be made of living crystal. Everything glowed. Everything moved. It was like being inside a dream. The Imperial Palace stood at the center of the capital city. It was enormous, a structure of flowing shapes and impossible angles that hurt Jake's eyes if he looked at it too long. They were led inside by guards in shimmering armor and brought to the throne room. Jake had never seen so many Volanthi in one place. Thousands of them filled the vast chamber, standing in rows along the walls and balconies above. They were dressed in robes of every color, and their skin shifted and shimmered as they watched the humans enter. At the far end of the room, on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single massive gem, sat Emperor Kelthor. He was old. His skin had faded to pale silver, like Varentis, but his eyes burned with sharp intelligence. He was tall even for a Volanthi, and his presence filled the room like a weight pressing down on everyone present. Princess Alindra stood near the throne. She wore a gown of deep blue that matched her eyes. When she saw Jake, she gave him a small nod. It was the only friendly gesture he received. The humans were brought before the throne and told to wait. The Emperor studied them in silence for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You are Jake Morrison, the human who saved my daughter." Jake swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty. You touched her when she was dying, and she healed." The Emperor leaned forward slightly. "How did you do this?" "I don't know, Your Majesty. I fell. I touched her arm. And then the light came." Whispers ran through the crowd. The Emperor raised a hand, and silence returned instantly. "The physicians tell me the humans may carry a gift unknown to other species. They say your biology is unique, that your bodies can do things ours cannot." He paused. "Is this true?" Jake looked at Dr. Park. She stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, our research is not complete, but the evidence suggests that humans have advanced healing abilities that might be transferable to other species. We do not fully understand it yet." The Emperor considered this. Then he looked back at Jake. "I am grateful for my daughter's life. The Dominion does not forget such debts." He paused, and his eyes grew harder. "I offer you a place here, Jake Morrison. You will live in comfort and honor. You will want for nothing. And when we have need of your gift, you will provide it." The chamber was silent. Every eye was on Jake. He thought about the offer. Wealth, status, a life of ease in this beautiful place. It was more than a cargo worker could ever dream of. But something felt wrong. The Emperor was not asking him. He was telling him. And Jake had spent too many years making his own choices to give that up now. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I am grateful for your offer, but I need time to think about it. This is a big decision, and I want to make sure I make the right one." The silence in the chamber became something heavier. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Jake heard Captain Bennett draw a sharp breath beside him. "You wish to consider my offer?" The Emperor's voice was cold now. "Yes, Your Majesty." With respect. For a terrible moment, Jake thought he had made a fatal mistake. The Emperor could have him killed with a word. He could start a war between their peoples. The weight of those thousands of watching eyes pressed down on Jake until he could barely breathe. Then, slowly, the Emperor leaned back on his throne. Something that might have been amusement crossed his ancient face. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human." Jake remembered Alindra saying the same thing. "Maybe both, Your Majesty," The Emperor was silent for another long moment. Then he nodded. You have 3 days to make your decision. Use them wisely. Jake bowed, his legs shaking. He had survived. For now. But as the guards led them away, he saw something in the crowd that made his blood run cold. A tall Valanti lord was watching him with eyes full of hatred. The lord's skin was dark purple, almost black, and his expression promised violence. Not everyone in the Dominion was pleased that Jake had saved the princess. And Jake had a feeling that the Emperor's protection might not be enough to keep him safe from those who wished him harm. The dark-eyed lord's name was Maver. Jake learned this from a servant who brought food to the quarters where the humans were staying. Lord Maver was a military commander, one of the most powerful nobles in the Dominion. He had spent centuries building his influence, and he did not like humans. He says your species is primitive, the servant whispered. He says the Emperor is foolish to welcome you here. He says the healing was a trick. Jake thanked the servant and sent him away. Then he sat down and tried to think. Captain Bennett found him an hour later, staring out the window at the glowing city below. You saw him too, she said. The one who looked like he wanted to kill you. Lord Maver. Apparently, he thinks I'm a fraud. Bennett sat down beside him. What do you think? I think he's dangerous. Jake turned to face her. Captain, what if this is all a trap? What if they're just waiting for me to make a mistake so they can get rid of me? Then we don't give them that chance. Bennett's voice was firm. We stay together, we stay alert, and we get through the next 3 days. Then we make our choice and get out of here. That night, Jake could not sleep. He lay in his bed and listened to the strange sounds of the alien city. Everything here was beautiful, but it was not his home. He missed the cramped corridors of the starward drift. He missed the hum of the engines and the smell of recycled air. He missed being nobody Dodd. A soft knock at his door made him sit up. He crossed the room quietly and opened it a crack. Princess Alundra stood in the hallway, wearing a simple cloak with the hood pulled up to hide her face. Her eyes were wide with urgency. You must come with me, she whispered. Now, quietly. Jake hesitated. Why? What's happening? There is no time to explain. Please, trust me. Something in her voice made Jake believe her. He grabbed his jacket and followed her through the dark corridors of the palace. She moved quickly, taking turns that seemed random but clearly were not. She knew this place well. They emerged into a small garden filled with plants that glowed softly in the darkness. Alindra led him to a bench hidden behind a wall of tall flowers and sat down. Her face was pale with fear. Lord Maver is planning to kill you, she said. Tonight. Jake's blood turned cold. How do you know? I have friends among the servants. They hear things. Maver has gathered soldiers loyal to him. They plan to enter your quarters and make it look like an accident. They will say that human bodies cannot survive on our world, that you died from exposure to our air or our food. And the Emperor? My father trusts Maver. They have been allies for centuries. Alindra's hands were shaking. By the time he learns the truth, it will be too late. You will be dead, and Maver will have destroyed any hope of alliance between our peoples. Jake thought quickly. Why does he care so much? Why does he hate humans? Because if humans can heal us, everything changes. Alindra looked at him with those deep purple eyes. For thousands of years, the Valanti have been the masters of this region of space. We have the best technology, the longest lives, the greatest power. But we are also dying slowly. Our birth rates are falling. Our people are growing old. We need new blood, new ideas, new allies. But nobles like Maver do not want that. They want things to stay the same forever. They would rather watch our civilization fade than share power with younger species. Jake understood. It was the same fear he had seen on Earth, the same resistance to change that had plagued humans throughout their history. Some people would rather hold on to a dying world than help build a new one. "What do we do?" he asked. "I have warned your captain through a message. She's preparing your people to fight if necessary." HealHFY stood. "You must go back now and be ready. When they come, you must survive long enough for help to arrive. I will go to my father and tell him what Maver has planned." Jake stood as well. "Why are you helping me? You barely know me." HealHFY looked at him for a long moment. "Because you saved my life without asking for anything in return. Because when you stood before my father, you did not bow and scrape like others do. You spoke honestly, even when it was dangerous." She reached out and touched his hand briefly. "Because I think you might be exactly what my people need, even if they do not know it yet." Jake returned to his quarters through the same hidden paths HealHFY had shown him. He found Captain Bennett waiting with Lieutenant Donovan and Dr. Park. They had weapons ready, taken from the emergency kit on the shuttle. "The princess warned us," Bennett said. "We're ready." They did not have to wait long. The attack came 2 hours before dawn. The door to their quarters burst open, and 6 Volanti soldiers rushed in. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. But the humans were not sleeping. They were waiting. Lieutenant Donovan moved first. He had been a Marine for 15 years, and his body remembered every lesson. He knocked the first soldier's weapon aside and struck him hard across the face. The Volanti went down. Jake had grown up on a rough colony world. He had learned to fight before he learned to read. He grabbed a chair and swung it at the nearest attacker, catching him in the chest and sending him crashing into the wall. Captain Bennett fired her weapon, a simple human pistol that seemed primitive compared to Volanti technology. But it worked. A soldier fell, clutching his leg. Dr. Park pulled an unconscious soldier's weapon from his hands and covered the door, preventing more from entering. The fight was brutal and short. When it ended, 4 Volanti soldiers lay unconscious on the floor. 2 had fled into the night, and the humans stood victorious, breathing hard but alive. Jake looked at his hands. They were shaking, but not from fear. He had fought. He had survived. And he had done it alongside people he trusted. Palace guards arrived minutes later, summoned by the noise. Behind them came Princess HealHFY and her father, the Emperor Kelthar. The Emperor's face was terrible to see. His silver skin seemed to glow with cold fury as he looked at the fallen soldiers, at the weapons they carried, at the proof of betrayal in his own palace. "These are Maver's men," HealHFY said. "He sent them to kill the human." One of the captured soldiers, barely conscious, began to speak. He told them everything. Maver had promised them rewards and honors for killing Jake. He had said it was for the good of the Dominion, that humans were a threat that had to be eliminated. The Emperor listened in silence. When the soldier finished, Kelthar turned to one of his guards. "Bring Lord Maver to me, now." The guard bowed and hurried away. Jake watched the Emperor, trying to read his expression. The ancient ruler's face was hard as stone, but something moved in his dark eyes. Anger, yes, but also something else. Shame, perhaps, or recognition of how close he had come to making a terrible mistake. The Emperor turned to Jake. His voice was quieter now, but no less powerful. "It seems I owe you more than thanks. I owe you an apology." He paused. "You were attacked in my palace, under my protection. That should never have happened." "I'm alive," Jake said. "That's what matters." The Emperor studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Yes, you are. And perhaps that tells me everything I need to know about humans." Lord Maver was brought before the Emperor in chains. The once proud noble looked smaller now, his dark purple skin pale with fear. He tried to speak, to explain, to justify what he had done. But the Emperor raised a hand, and Maver fell silent. "You have betrayed the Dominion," HealHFY said. His voice echoed through the throne room like the toll of a great bell. "You have attempted murder in my palace. You have endangered the peace between our peoples. And you have done all of this in secret, like a coward." Maver's supporters in the crowd looked away, unwilling to meet the Emperor's gaze. Whatever power the Lord had once held was gone now, scattered like ashes in the wind. "You will be stripped of your titles and your lands," the Emperor continued. "You will be taken to the prison world of Kalthos 9. There you will live out the rest of your days in darkness and silence. This is my judgment." Guards dragged Maver away. He did not struggle. He seemed to have given up, accepting his fate with the hollow eyes of a man who had lost everything. Jake watched him go and felt no satisfaction. Maver had tried to kill him, yes, but he had also been afraid. Afraid of change, afraid of losing the only world he had ever known. Jake understood that fear, even if he could not forgive the actions it had driven Maver to take. The Emperor turned to face the assembled court. His voice rose, carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "This day marks a turning point for the Dominion. We have discovered something precious, something that could change the future of our civilization. The humans carry a gift, a power to heal that we do not fully understand. Some would have us fear this gift. Some would have us destroy it." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I choose a different path." He looked at Jake, and for the first time, something like warmth entered his ancient eyes. "Jake Morrison, you have shown courage and honor in the face of danger. You saved my daughter when our best physicians could not. You stood before me and spoke honestly, even when it would have been safer to bow and agree. And when my own people tried to murder you, you fought back and survived." Jake did not know what to say. He simply bowed his head in acknowledgement. "I asked you to remain here as my guest," the Emperor continued. "Now I ask something different. I ask you to help us build something new. Not as a servant or a possession, but as a partner. An equal." The crowd stirred. Murmurs ran through the ranks of nobles. An equal? A human? Equal to the Volanthi? It was unheard of. Jake stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Your Majesty, I am grateful for your offer, but I have to be honest with you." He looked around the room at the thousands of alien faces watching him. "Humans don't want to be kept in golden cages, no matter how comfortable. We don't want to be possessions, even treasured ones. If there really is something in our biology that can help other species, then that gift should be shared freely. It should be studied openly. It should be used to help everyone, not just those with power and wealth." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I'm not a diplomat or a scientist. I'm just a cargo worker who got lucky. But I know that the best things in the universe are built together. If humans and Volanthi work side by side, as real partners, we could accomplish things that neither of us could do alone." The throne room was silent. Jake could feel every eye on him, could feel the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. He had just spoken to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy as an equal. Either he had changed everything, or he had doomed himself and his entire species. Emperor HealHFY studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile crossed his ancient face. "You are a strange people, humans," he said. "You live such short lives, yet you dream such big dreams. You are young and foolish and stubborn." He rose from his throne, and the movement seemed to fill the room. "But perhaps those are exactly the qualities the galaxy needs right now." He descended from the throne and stood before Jake. They faced each other, the ancient ruler and the young cargo worker, surrounded by witnesses who would remember this moment for centuries. "Let it be known, the Emperor said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "From this day forward, the Volanti Dominion and the human species are allies. We will work together to unlock the secrets of human healing. We will share our knowledge and our resources. And we will face the future not as masters and servants, but as partners." He extended his hand to Jake. It was a human gesture, one he must have learned in preparation for this moment. Jake took it. The Emperor's skin was cool and smooth, so different from human flesh. But the grip was firm, and the promise behind it was real. The throne room erupted in sound. Some cheered. Some shouted in protest. Some simply stared in disbelief. But it did not matter. The decision had been made. History had changed. In the days that followed, the Treaty of the Healing Touch was written and signed. Human medical teams would come to Volanti space. Volanti scientists would visit Earth. Together, they would study the mysteries of human biology and find ways to use those gifts to help both species. Jake was offered many roles in this new alliance: ambassador, director, coordinator. Each title came with power and prestige beyond anything he had ever imagined. But in the end, he chose something simpler. He asked to lead the first joint research team, to work directly with Volanti scientists to understand what had happened when he touched the princess. He wanted to be part of the work, not just a symbol of it. On his last night on Volantis Prime, before the shuttle arrived to take him back to the starward drift, Jake walked through the palace gardens. The plants glowed softly around him, filling the air with strange and beautiful scents. He was not alone. Princess Alindra walked beside him, her steps silent on the crystal path. "You could have stayed here," she said. "You could have lived in comfort for the rest of your life. My father would have given you anything you asked for." "I know," Jake said, "but that's not who I am. I need to do something to be useful. I can't just sit around being special." Alindra laughed softly. It was a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You are very strange, Jake Morrison. I've been told that before." They walked in silence for a while, enjoying the peace of the garden and the company of each other. Finally, they stopped at a spot where the view opened up to show the glowing city below and the stars shining above. "Will you come back?" Alindra asked. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. Jake looked at her. In the soft light, her skin shimmered like a sunset over the ocean. Her eyes held depths he was only beginning to understand. She was alien, born of a species so different from his own that they should have had nothing in common. And yet, standing here with her, he felt more connected to another person than he had in years. "Yes," he said. "I'll come back." She smiled, and her smile was worth more than all the treasures of the Dominion. "Good," she said, "because I think we have much more to learn from each other." They stood together watching the stars. Two people from different worlds who had found something unexpected in each other. Around them, the galaxy turned slowly onward, filled with dangers and wonders and possibilities beyond counting. Jake did not know what the future held. He did not know if the Alliance would succeed, if human healing could really change the galaxy, if he and Alindra could build something real together. But for the first time in his life, he was excited to find out. Humanity had taken its first true step onto the galactic stage. Not through war or conquest, but through an accidental touch and the healing that followed. And Jake Morrison, the cargo worker from a worn-out freighter, had helped make it happen. It was not the life he had planned. But standing there in that alien garden, with stars above and hope ahead, he realized it was exactly the life he wanted.